There is a moment right before everything goes wrong, where time seems to stop. No moments yet, no violence, just the sound of your own breathing, and the overwhelming certainty that something is watching. It's a feeling we all know, even outside of horror, that uncanny stillness before the storm hits. Horror games have learned to weaponize that stillness. They don't always strike, they wait. And in that wait, they breed something far worse than fear. They breed tension. Fear is static that it prevents me from hearing. Samuel Butler. What Butler meant is simple, but devastating. Fear isn't just a response, it's a barrier. It clouds your thoughts, it scrambles your instincts, and it drowns out your sense of self. Tension is the slow rise of that static. The longer it lingers, the more it builds until even your own mind becomes hostile. You don't know when the threat will appear, but you know it's coming. Tension in horror games isn't just about what's on screen, it's about what's being held back, what the game refuses to show, to explain, to resolve. It bypasses your conscious mind and plants itself deeper in your muscles, in your memory, in your breath. It's not the screen that makes you jump, it's the silence before it. In this video, we are going to explore how horror games use tension to trap us, how they stretch a moment until it snaps, how they take control away, twist our expectations, and make inaction feel like it's the most terrifying choice. We'll break down design, psychology, and even look at what real-world cinema can teach us about building unbearable suspense. Stay with me until the end, because the scariest part of any story isn't the climax, it's the moments before it. Act 1, Foundations of Fear. Tension is not fear, not directly. It's the pressure that precedes fear, a sense of emotional constriction, a tightness in the chest, the shallow breath, the second of hesitation before opening that next door. In media, especially horror, it's the suspended moment between cause and effect. You know something is wrong, you just don't know what or when. In that gap between certainty and revelation, that's where tension lives. In horror games, tension is crafted moment to moment, through silence, pacing, and absence of information. It's less about what you see and more about what you expect to see. Tension engages the brain's amygdala, the area responsible for threat detection and emotional processing. But what makes tension so effective is that it doesn't activate a clear flight or fight response, it activates anticipation. You're preparing for something that hasn't happened yet. In that suspended anticipation, your sense of time warps. A hallway feels longer. A minute feels like 5. Your body begins to ready itself for pain that hasn't come. This isn't just storytelling, it's biological manipulation. Horror games know this. They don't show you something scary, they trap you in a state of constant pre-scene dread. That's where tension thrives. In the stretch, in the wait. Tension becomes especially potent in games because you're not just watching, you're doing, or worse, not doing enough. You're the one opening the door. You're the one deciding whether to hide, run, or check behind you. That active role turns passive dread into personalized fear, because when tension snaps, you'll be the one who failed to stop it. The more control a game gives you, the more ways it can hurt you with it. Agency is often seen as empowering, but in horror, it's a double-edged sword. When a game lets you make a meaningful choice, whether it's saving a character, taking a risk, or choosing not to act, it creates a space where every decision breeds doubt, and doubt is fertile soil for tension. Games like Until Dawn or Heavy Rain stretch this to the limit. You're not just scared for yourself, you're scared of yourself, of what you might choose. And in that moment of hesitation, tension blooms. Tension doesn't need music. In fact, the absence of sound is often more effective than any soundtrack. Silence is unnatural in games. It pulls your attention toward every footstep, every rustle, every heartbeat. When there is no scare to lean on, your brain begins to hallucinate meaning. Was that creak in the game or in my house? Alien Isolation knew this. So does Resident Evil 7. The scariest soundtrack is sometimes no soundtrack at all. Act 2, Techniques of Terror. The longer a game withholds a scare, the more potent the tension is. This isn't about jump scares, it's about the wait. The hallway that feels a little bit too long. The moment where you expect something to happen and nothing does. Good horror games delay the inevitable. Great ones make you doubt if it's coming at all. Resident Evil 7 understands this. Your wife, who was supposedly dead, is alive, but there is something wrong. She is not herself. She is actively trying to hurt you. While avoiding her, you explore, you wander. Then you become comfortable enough to drop your guard, and then you see a silhouette in the shadows waiting to strike. It's not the first scare that hits the hardest, it's the moment you realize you are never safe again. Environment is a silent character in horror. Tight corridors, looping pathways, and rooms with no clear exits all manipulate your sense of freedom. They force your eyes towards small details, a broken light, an empty crib, a bloodstain that wasn't there before. The smaller the space, the more your attention narrows. And narrowed attention breeds overthinking, paranoia, and layers of fear. The house itself rearranges behind you, not violently, but subtly. That forces you to question your senses. And in horror, doubt is a weapon far more effective than any monster. Some games purposely slow the player down. A slow door animation, a deliberately sluggish flashlight, an item you have to examine a bit too long. They aren't annoyances, they're tension generators. When the game forces you to wait, your brain fills the gap with anxiety. What's behind that door? Why is this hallway suddenly too quiet? Why is it taking so long to turn around? By limiting speed and responsiveness, the game creates friction between what you want to do and what you're allowed to do. This dissonance is pure psychological strain. Sound isn't just atmospheric in horror, it's weaponized. In White Day, a labyrinth calls school. Footsteps echo unexpectedly. Distant voices leak through the walls. You hear things before you see them. Your ears become your first line of defense, and that defense is constantly misfiring. Volume dips, unnatural echoes, rising static. They teach you to listen wrong, and when you can't trust your senses, you lose control. Tension thrives in repetition, but explodes when the routine breaks. The first time you walk down the hallway, it's unfamiliar. The second time, you relax. But the third time, the lighting has changed. The door is open. Something is slightly off. Games like PT made an art form of this. They trained you at repetition, then corrupted it. When familiarity becomes untrustworthy, every step forward is a question. And in horror, the unknown is always worse than the answer. Before horror games taught us to fear what's around the next corner, film had already mastered the art of tension. Cinema doesn't rely on interactivity, it relies on precision. Every cut, every frame, every breath of silence is intentional. And what cinema loses in player control, it compensates with absolute directional control. Horror game developers borrow from this legacy constantly. To understand the future of interactive fear, we need to study the past of orchestrated dread. Alfred Hitchcock once said, "There's no terror in the bang, only the anticipation of it." This defines the heart of suspense. Surprise is momentary, suspense is prolonged. In games, surprise is a jump scare. Suspense is the long, drawn-out dread before it. Hitchcock's famous example, if a bomb suddenly goes off under a table, the audience is shocked, but if they see the bomb ticking before it explodes, the entire scene becomes unbearable. The ticking is the tension, the delay becomes the fear. Directors manipulate time, sound, and expectation to trap viewers. For example, framing and blocking. What's kept out of frame is often more terrifying than what's in it. Long takes and minimal cuts, forcing the viewer to sit in the moment. Lighting and color, drain light from a scene, or signals that unease before anything happens. Sound design, silence, faint ambience, or a heartbeat, often louder than a scream. These are visual tricks, psychological sleights of hand, and horror games use them all. Case study, Halloween 4 and the Lingering Threat. Now we look to Halloween 4, a film that understands the value of stillness, not just as a pacing device, but as a weapon. I'll break down specific scenes that build tension using shot composition, silence, camera manipulation, and subtle movements to tell the viewer that it's coming, but not yet. Hey guys, so as mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing an in-depth analysis of certain scenes from Halloween 4. By doing this, I feel this will straighten up the video and the point that I'm trying to prove with the tension aspect. So for people that don't know, I like horror games. People don't know I like horror movies just as much. So I feel this is my jurisdiction. I can give you guys an in-depth analysis of certain scenes that I feel build up tension, especially in this movie. This movie has a lot of tension and suspenseful scenes. So I'm not going to give any biased opinions. So people that don't like my opinions, don't worry about it. We go into extreme detail of things that I've noticed and things that people don't notice. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the analysis. See y'all later. Okay, so as mentioned, we could be doing this. I'm going to be going in depth in scenes that I feel actually build up tension. Funny enough, Halloween 4 is on YouTube, so support the official release. Okay, so for people that don't know, long story short, Michael Myers has returned and he's on a mission to kill his niece, Jamie, which is the daughter of his sister, Lori. So here's what I want people to pay attention to. Right now, we're going to be doing the botched castle defense sequence where the main heroes and a few extra characters are going to be barricading themselves inside of a home. So right now, they're all heading to Sheriff Meeker's house. I want you guys to pay attention to this real quick. Here's the police car, but look at this area. Look at the side. Look at the side. There's like a little area where I can't actually point it out because my mouse is not showing for some reason on OBS. But to the right, right toward the foundation, it looks like there's a window over there. I want you guys to pay attention to that. It's not going to be in this specific police car, so this is going to be another. Ooh, lewd. Don't mind that. We're going to speed up real quick. Okay, so right now, Sheriff Meeker told his other officer to go outside and grab a shotgun out of the trunk. So, did you guys notice? The back door is open. He arrived in another cruiser. He was by himself. So, for no reason, his back door should not be open. So that gives the audience an idea that something is going wrong. And remember, there's a potential entrance at the foundation of the house. So the officer clearly notices something, but for some weird reason, he's not really bringing attention to it. He's gonna look at the back door one more time. So that gives the audience a cue that something is happening. All right, so he returns. He's gonna tell Sheriff Meeker he got his gun. So since Sheriff Meeker is drinking, I'm gonna drink to that. But I want you guys to pay attention to to the left side of the screen. Unfortunately, I can't point it out, but hopefully you guys have noticed. Ooh, okay. Have you guys noticed it yet? Look at the silhouette of the shadow right on the left side of the screen. Look at the back of Sheriff Meeker. Michael Myers is in the house right now. So he was able to gain interest to the house. Right there, if you see it again. They don't notice him, like at all. He's still there. Okay. So we're back again. Now I want you guys to pay attention. So as we mentioned before, Michael Myers is currently in the house right now. So pay attention. Rachel's gonna be talking to the officer. There's nothing of like interest right now, but look behind Rachel real quick as soon as she gets out of the frame. Wait for it. So right now, Rachel's complaining that she just wants to get out of here. But again, this is a tower defense sequence. You guys see it? Right there. Michael Myers is very notorious for that. So his white mask is reflecting right there. So that lets the audience know that, hey, he's still here. He's just plotting. He hasn't done anything just yet, but he's on the move. The officer looks, doesn't see anything over there. So right now, Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Meeker are actually going to be leaving the house. There's a disturbance in the city that could potentially be Michael. For some reason, they thought it'd be a great idea just to leave. I want you guys to pay attention to the front door. That's going to be a pretty critical thing later on. So Sheriff Meeker is telling his officer to keep guard. So it's just going to be that officer, the two female leads, his daughter, and the male lead. So right now, I want you guys to pay attention to this. So Sheriff Meeker's daughter is going to that officer who's supposed to be guarding the front door. So remember, Michael Myers is still in the house. So again, we saw earlier the officer was guarding the front door. Very deceptive what they're about to do here. Hey, look who's over there right now. And look who just got up. Very notorious kill, by the way. Oh my god. Ugh. So notorious. So as you can see, the tension has built up. Has definitely built up. So now people have they're gonna notice that something is wrong. They do another scan towards the cop on the ground. Give it a second. There's the cop dead on the ground again. As you know who on the door. Rachel screams. Michael Myers is alerted. So right now, we're going to cue the chase sequence, which unfortunately I'm not going to show. Jamie's on the bed right now. All right, so cue the main male character. So they have to get out of here right now. They have to get out. So remember when I told you guys to pay, again with that scene? Remember when I told you guys to pay attention to the front door? The doorknob is gone. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this in-depth analysis. Again, I feel like this scene, like this whole little tower defense section from the beginning all the way up to the end of this little sequence built up a lot of good tension. After decades of cinematic tension building, games have taken the lessons and added a new layer, your involvement. But they didn't abandon film language, they translated it. For example, static camera angles in early Resident Evil games mirror locked off camera shots. The oppressive long takes in Amnesia The Dark Descent mirror slow pans from classic cinema. The silence of SCP Containment Breach ripped right from the soundscapes of Halloween, The Shining, and The Exorcist. Film taught us to wait. Games taught us to suffer through the wait. Case study, Resident Evil 7, Dread in the Walls. Resident Evil 7 reintroduced the feeling of being truly alone, truly watched, and truly powerless. Its core focus was environmental dread, slow pacing, resource scarcity, and uncertainty. For example, throughout your journey in the Baker residence, every hallway becomes a threat. You aren't given time to breathe and can never fully relax. By stripping away the power of fantasy and anchoring you into a claustrophobic realism, Resident Evil 7 builds through anticipation, never letting you feel safe until the end. Case study, White Day, a labyrinth called school, fear of the unknown. White Day doesn't rely on gore or monsters to unsettle you. It thrives on uncertainty. In its world, silence isn't safety, it's camouflage. Its core focus is being unpredictable of a threat, a claustrophobic design, supernatural layering, and a cultural horror tone. The school is a surreal setting. You could be solving a puzzle in near silence. The hallways are empty, but a soft whistle echoes. It grows louder. You freeze. No music swells. No warning sounds. Just that whistle. When the janitor appears, it feels like a punishment for letting your guard down, even for a second. But the janitor isn't the only threat in this school. You never know when the evil spirits that haunt the school will try to make you a permanent resident. White Day builds tension by denying predictability. You're not just scared of what's chasing you, you're scared because you no longer trust the game's rhythm, and that erosion of trust becomes your biggest fear. Case study, Layers of Fear, psychological unraveling through environmental dissonance. Layers of Fear doesn't trap you with monsters, it traps you with your own mind, and twists the environment to reflect every crack in your sanity. Its core focus is shifting architecture, sound as manipulation, absence of clear danger, and art as horror. For example, you open a door you just walked through, and now it leads somewhere else. The path behind you is gone. No chase, no scare, just isolation, disorientation, and the creeping fear that the game is rearranging itself to keep you lost. Layers of Fear builds tension not through what's in front of you, but what might vanish when you turn around. In this world, nothing is fixed, and neither are you. Act 4, Why Tension Works, the psychology and neuroscience of dread. Tension doesn't just scare us, it rewires us. Beneath every surface of every horror game, there's a biological mechanism firing on all cylinders, pushing our minds to anticipate, analyze, and panic. For example, the role of anticipation. Fear of the unknown activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision making and planning. This part of the brain lights up when there's a possibility of danger, not necessarily a confirmed threat. Games that build tension exploit this, keeping threats off screen, using ambient sounds, and letting players stew in their own sanity. The amygdala and emotional memory. The amygdala handles emotional processing and fear responses. It stores and recalls traumatic or fear-inducing events. When horror games echo real-life fears, the amygdala reinforces those feelings. This is why a well-built atmosphere combined with unpredictable events feels deeply unsettling. It's not just visual, it's emotional conditioning, cortisol and physical reactions. High tension creates cortisol, the stress hormone. This triggers a psychological response, rapid heartbeat, narrowed vision, hyper-awareness. Players get more sensitive to every creak, shadow, or distorted sound. Good horror games ride this wave without blowing it too early. They keep you in that liminal state where you're just barely holding it together. The relief cycle. Tension builds until players are begging for release. When a scare finally hits, the body dumps the stress and the player feels temporary relief. Some games deny this release, extending the dread far past the expected payoff. That's where psychological horror thrives. Tension isn't just a design choice, it's a calculated psychological dance. The best horror games don't scream at your brain, they whisper to it, and let you imagine the scream itself. Across every section of this journey, we traced how tension isn't just a tool, it's the foundation of fear. We began dissecting what tension truly is, peeling back its psychological and neurological roots to reveal why our bodies freeze before our minds catch up. We watched how masterful horror games from Resident Evil 7's suffocating corridors to the shifting madness of layers of fear dragged the silence out like a blade across the skin. Even cinema, like Halloween 4, reminded us that what lingers unseen, what creeps just beyond the light, is what truly destroys us from within. It isn't the noise that defines horror, it's the absence of safety. And the tension before the terror is where fear becomes something we carry with us, long after we put the controller down. Fear doesn't shut you down, it wakes you up. Veronica Roth. That's the truth of tension and horror. It sharpens us, forces us to listen harder, breathe slower, feel more deeply. And in doing so, it doesn't numb us. It makes us more alive than ever, just long enough to realize how fragile that life is. This won't be the last time we walk this path, because there's still more to uncover. More games that dare to slow down, to make us wait, to make us wonder. So stay with me. Next time we'll push even further into the dark. But for now, if tension is the spark, then what exactly lights the fire?